Hello, Bob Van Rossum with Market Pro. And one of the things I see in our executive search process is that sometimes candidates can miss the simple things. And if you're in a highly competitive executive search process for the type of searches that we do, which is chief marketing officer, head of product, head of brand, head of digital, head of e-commerce, head of communications, it's director level through C-suite roles in marketing. You're no longer interviewing for a manager, senior manager position. As you get more senior, the competition gets stiffer, and missing little things can cause a big issue. So one of the things, or not a big issue, it can just get you ruled out of the process. So one of the things that we see get missed on a consistent basis is thank you notes. And it's so simple. We either see them not done or we see them done incorrectly. And the first thing you want to be able to do is send a thank you note. It needs to be unique to each person you interviewed with. So if the first round interview you met with the CEO and the head of HR, send them each a separate thank you note that's personalized. So if they compare them to each other, which they're likely to do, they're not cut and paste, and they were relevant to the conversation you had with them. So the conversation with the CEO, what's important to him or her, is going to be different than the HR person and what's important to that individual, right? So you may want to target the HR person's thank you note to something you thought was really interesting and exciting about the culture, right? You may want to target the CEO and his thank you note or her thank you note to be something that is very specific to performance, ROI, role, exceeding expectations, those sorts of things. But it's short and it's sweet. It's a thank you note. It is not a chance to re-interview. And that's the other mistake we see made is people will leave the interview and they'll feel like 80% of it went well. They're excited about the role, the opportunity, but in the back of their mind, there's this one question they really wish they would have answered better or differently. And the concern is, I may get ruled out because I didn't answer that question well. And the reality is you do not get a chance to re-interview. And the thank you note is the worst place to try to do it. And so we've seen candidates send these really long notes that say, I really appreciate your time. And kind of the beginning of it is a nice thank you note. And then it goes to, hey, I was thinking, and there was the question you asked, and I answered it this way. I really wish I would have answered it that way. And I've never seen the response from a client on those be positive. So the thank you note is just that. It's a thank you note. You should send one each step of the way. So for each interview you have, and each interviewer you have, they get a personalized thank you note. And the second time you interview with the CEO or the hiring manager, they get a second one. And it should be unique and personalized, right? It was, 10, 15 years ago, we got a search for a chief marketing officer with about a $200 million software company. And it was a big gig. It was an exciting gig. It was a great organization. They ended up getting purchased and 4 or 5 years later. But ultimately, this is an opportunity that most people in enterprise software would have wanted at the time. And I sit down with the CEO. This is pre-COVID, so it's actually when we sat down with CEOs and met them in person. And he asked me, he goes, so you know why you're here, right? And I'm like, well, we're going to talk about your CMO search. He's like, yeah, but you know why you're here. And I'm like, all right, there's something up that I'm not aware of. So no, tell me, why am I here? He goes, well, we had a candidate. And we were ready to make her an offer. And if we didn't receive thank you notes, we would have offered her the role, right? So thank you notes at this point in time in the process, they were so far down the road and they were going to extend the offer to her. And he said, but we started to compare the notes that she sent us. And it came up because there were grammatical errors in what she sent us. And so people on the team, she did basically a panel interview with the entire executive team at the end, started saying, hey, isn't this interesting? We're getting ready to hire a chief marketing officer and we've got grammatical errors in her thank you notes. Then they realized, based on comparing them, that they were all the same. She copy and pasted. Not only did she have grammatical errors, but she had the same ones to everybody. And so they decided not to hire her because of that. And we ended up getting the search as a result. So worked out well for us, but ultimately she lost an opportunity where, it was a significant comp package based bonus stock. And as I mentioned, they got purchased. So the stock piece worked out really well. And so these little things, specifically this little thing, a thank you note, can be really important and really separate you from everybody else. But if done incorrectly, is going to rule you out of the process. So take time with it, take care and attention. You've actually spent a ton of time and invested a ton of time preparing for the interview. You've taken a ton of time and invested a ton of time actually interviewing. The small amount of time it takes to send a thoughtful, individualized thank you note is really important. And if you're working with someone like us, an executive search firm, just copy us. CC the partner that you're working with on the search so they're included, but there's no reason why you're not at the point in time in the process where you should be communicating directly with potentially your future employer. And no good executive search firm is going to want to keep you from that. They're just going to want to be aware of what's going on.